Hello everyone, Edge FPV here, and today we got something kind of special, a micro reverb frame. And this one I decided instead of going to the 3-inch, we're going to go ahead and go a full 4-inch. So we're going to give this a shot, and I'm also going to be running it on a 6S battery. I think I got some of the lightest parts I can. I also want this set up as a long range unit as well. So it's going to be kind of a special deal here. I have all the parts I can think of that I can put on here to make it go basically as fast as it can, it be efficient enough to do long range, but I did want to have a chance to put this micro reverb together for you guys and get this going. One special thing that we've got going on here is Stikit Skins made this design up for this particular one to hopefully match the motors and make it as dark as I possibly could. This is the first he's had of this frame, so this will be an exciting one for this. So thank you Stikit Skins for getting this out so I can get this video done on this, and let's go ahead and get started. I'll put the stickers on the frame. So I just got all the stickers on here. I just wanted to show you, I mean, how sick does that look? That's pretty awesome. So big shout out to Jeff Goss, Stikit Skins, for getting me this custom skin, and you guys can order it from his website just the same. Get any design you want. So he's got this frame cut out now, and so you can order pretty much anything you want. Alright, let's go through the components that we got here real quick just to kind of show you what's going on. So the first thing I got here is the flight controller, which is the Maytech F722 Mini. Handles 2 to 8S batteries, which I don't know why you would want to run an 8S on that, but it's got a ton of different options on it. And this does actually have the 2 camera control on it, as well as the power on and off for your VTX. That only runs through VBAT though, so my VTX actually won't be able to do the switch on that because I can't run full voltage off that. And then also it's got 2 gyros on it as well too. So you can, it does have the 6000 gyro as well as the normal gyro. So, and this is an F7 board. So I think this is going to be right up my alley on this. It has all the options I need. It has GPS, I2C protocol, and everything. I mean, this thing is absolutely loaded for a 20x20 stack. ImpulseRC forward mini 32-bit. So this is a BL Heli 32 ESC 45 amp. Handles 2 to 6S on a 20x20 stack as well too. You know, 45 amps is just a ton of power, but especially on a micro build like this. But I am running the 4-inch blades on it, so that's going to be right up my alley on this. So this should have plenty of power to do it. One thing I do like about this one is it does have the pads, so I can solder those on or use the plug itself on here too. So I can use it either way, and it does have battery lead pads on the top as well as the bottom. So the bottom I'm going to be using for the capacitor, and the top I'll be using for the wires. And as far as the motor pads go, there's only pads on the top, there's nothing on the bottom that way. But that is just absolutely loaded and beautiful. Like, it does have a double board setup like this, but I think it's just going to work perfect on here. Foxeer mix for my recording, for my HD recording. As you can notice, I did already knock off the edges off this. So I will show you how to cut those off here right now. So the Foxeer mix came out with a pretty cool idea, having a 30x30 holes or 20x20 holes. So on this particular model it's going to be 20x20, so we have to get rid of this outside edge. And if you can see on here, it's got perforated edges right here all the way through. And the funny part is the control button here is actually going to get cut off. So it does have another control button right here. So that should be okay that way, but a little timid, a little scared to actually cut this board up. So I've tried to come up with an easy solution of doing this. I did try to do the box knife scenario to try to see if that would work, and yeah, I'm too afraid to cut my fingers, you know, cutting it like that. Not to mention it takes a long time to get through that kind of stuff. So the next solution is going to be side cutters, and the best way that I've found to do this is to cut off the corners like this. So here and here, and then that way you can get into this cut here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and hopefully I don't destroy the board. Okay, now I can just line up on here. There we go. Just get that button completely out of the way like that. Now it'll be easier to cut. There we go. All the pieces are off. Now it's a 20 by 20 stack and should work pretty well. One last thing I'm probably going to do is take one of these files that I got from my Alien and go ahead and just file these down flat. Careful not to go too far on that, but I think that'll look pretty good when it's done. Won't have these jagged edges on it. It does have the pads that you can solder on instead of using the plug if you don't want to use the plug. So I might end up doing that as well too. We'll see how that works out. Maytech GPS, and this is the M8Q5883. This one does actually have a compass on it, so it is a, I want to say 6-wire setup on it. See, power, ground, TX, RX, and I2C. So yeah, six wires on this one. The mount that I got for it, Brain 3D finally came out with a mount for this particular one for the battery strap section of it. That's all they have out for this particular one so far, but everything I've tried, this is probably the best way to mount it, is on top of the battery. That way it sits up higher and gets the signals better, and it's also out of the way. So, and I'll just run the wires up by the strap and then just plug it right into the back there. So very nice GPS. I do have it on one of my other quads. I really like them. Foxeer camera, and one thing I did different on this that I got advice from Foxeer. They said go ahead and put a 2.5mm lens on there. Just make sure it is IR blocked, not IR sensitive. The original lens on here is a 2.7mm, and they said with the 2.5 you should get a little bit less distortion out of the corners. This flight controller has the VBAT signal for the TX, but it is from VBAT, and the Foxeer mix will not handle a 6S battery. So what I've got here is actually a step down voltage regulator, so this will step it down to 9 volts, and Foxeer did recommend using either 9 to 12. It will handle 5 volts, but it's just not quite enough voltage to do the recordings and do the FPV feed as well too. So 9 volts should be sufficient, and it'll be pulling the amps from the battery this way. I'll still go off the VBAT pad on here, but this will regulate it down to 9 volts. So going with the Crossfire Nano with the Immortal T on it, version 1. I don't have a version 2. TBS Unified Pro 32 Nano, 5 gigahertz, 400 milliwatt is its max on here, and I'm using the Lumineer Micro Axe 2, the new one, very tiny little guy, and right hand circular polarized. So I think this will work okay for long range. I'll have that coming up and sticking out of this Brain 3D print here, and that should just hold it up kind of up and out like that. So I'm hoping to get this close to the back so it sticks out as far as possible. For the Crossfire, I did go ahead and go with these type of mounts. Running a 6S. These were actually rated for 6S, so I'm going to go ahead and give them a shot. So these are the 1408 2400 kV motors. They are extremely coggy. They're the ones from ImpulseRC. It's just a mouthful. And they are the forward ones, so it does go with this particular ESC. So they are supposed to be rated for 45 amps. And on a 4-inch blade, that's going to be pretty hot. I can't wait to see what these things do. So I'm hoping to get some pretty high speeds on it and some good efficiency on long range. Jin's Ace 1050 milliamp. They're only a 45C rating on them, but it is a 6S battery, and they are thinner than the 4S 9500 batteries. So just a touch thinner, maybe just a touch shorter. Yeah, good battery to show there. But I think they're going to be just about right. These do weigh in at about 170 grams, so that is a little heavy, but again, 6S, I think it's going to have plenty of power. 4-inch blades that should pull it up and have no issue with it whatsoever. This is the Velcro piece that ImpulseRC comes with, and I don't like to usually use the fuzzy stuff, and that's what you would have to use on this particular one. So I took the 3M dual lock stuff and actually cut it out to what they had for theirs. So that was not easy, but I think this is going to work out quite a bit better. So this is the dual lock that can hold up to 10 pounds. So I don't see the battery coming off anytime soon, and I will be using the strap still for the GPS, but with this stuff on there, I really don't see that coming off anytime soon. But just an idea, this is possible to do this. All I did was basically lay it across the top like this, and then just cut out the sticky part on the bottom like that. And I didn't pull it off, it still slides around like that, but if you just hold it on there like that, cut out each part on the top, cut out the middles, keep moving down and keep cutting it out like that, then you should end up with something like this. Alright, let's get to building. And the first thing I always do is I arrange these parts exactly how I think are going to work. And on the ImpulseRC frames, almost all of them have these sync nuts in them, and I just go ahead and use one of these flat washers like this, and without anything on here, I will screw it into the bottom here and use that flat washer on the bottom like this, so it sucks it up underneath and just pulls it in straight. So as I'm going down and as I get closer to it, I just kind of wiggle it, make sure that this piece is hitting in the hole, and it sucks it right into there. So once you get all 4 of them on there, then you can determine if when you put your ESC on there, if it's going to touch anything or not. And I have a pretty good setup on how I want to do this, because I did put this stack together to see if I had enough room, and also if I could actually get everything set up inside there like that. So this is the setup that I have, that I've come up with, and basically each one of the squares that has a section like that in it will be how I have this set up. So these are the shortest standoffs that come with the ImpulseRC, and as you can see, it comes with a lot. So you have plenty to choose from if you're doing a different stack or using something else, but this is no different than the Micro Alien. It comes with all the different standoffs you need, and the shorter screws and the longer screws. So on this particular one, since I did the short ones on the Alien, I decided to go with the long ones on the Reverb. And so going from the bottom to the top, the ESC will go into this section here. The taller standoffs are actually what goes up underneath this one. And then on the flight controller, I did use the rubber standoffs with the long part on the bottom and the 2mm brass inserts into the center of that part. And that will go in between here. Then after that, the nuts will go onto the top of the flight controller. And then after that, then the Fox ear mix will go on top of that. And I do have enough room on these screws to actually bolt that all down. So once those stacks are in there like that, and I should say, so top, and top. And the button here is actually going to fit right over the top of that button there. So as you can see there, they're just going to be missing each other like that. So I'll kind of show you a close-up when I get the stack all put together. But as I'm putting this together this time, I want to make sure I get it soldered up. But I made that plan out before I started building this, so I know exactly where all my pieces are going to go and where I'm going to have to do the connections and stuff. Yeah, all this stuff should fit into this quad, so let's go ahead and get started and get this going. One other thing I forgot to mention on here, I apologize for that. This is exactly like the Alien frame. It does have the countersunk sections of it there. Try to show you in the light. So you want those to be on the bottom. So when you suck in these countersunk nuts, you want those on the top part with the small hole on the top. So that way your long screws like this will fit through and be flush on the bottom like that. So if you do it the other way, they're going to be sticking up like this, and you really don't want that. So, not to mention they wobble around quite a bit like that. So the first thing that I do is I go ahead and solder on my wires for the pigtail and the capacitor on there, since that's going to be up underneath. These other motor leads should be okay, and what I do is I just go ahead and put some screw sets in the top here like that, just so I can have the board sitting where I want it, and then I can put on the motors on each arm and then measure out the wires going to the motors to make sure that I get the right length and everything soldered up. So when putting this frame together, it is a split deck frame, so you're going to have the bottom piece like this is going to be under the arms, and the way that I look at these arms and stuff, you can see that there is a shorter piece and a longer piece. So the longer piece goes inward, and then this other piece hits along this arm here. So as you can see in the middle right here, they should make a cross like that. So as you can see, the longer pieces are all on this parallel here, and so front back or back front, so either way, either direction like that. But you do want the shorter pieces laying this way and the longer pieces laying this way. That way it gives it a squished X design, so it's going to be squished this way. So as long as you put in the arms like that, you should be okay. Alright, after I get the arms in position and I got the screws all locked down into place and make sure they're all in the right position and stuff like that, I'll go ahead and put all the motors on, and then I will put a small zip tie on each one of these just to hold it for right now, right at the top here, as tight as I can get, just so it's nice and tight on the arms and everything else here. And then I will go ahead and cut the wires to length here. Alright, not my best soldering job, but once you get these joints soldered up and the wire terminals on there, this is how I decided to run, let's see if I can show you a little bit better, the capacitor. So that should give me enough room underneath here for the VTX to go. So I'm hoping that this is going to go basically underneath the wire here, like so, and then the antenna will come up in the middle and go through that. The next project after that is to go ahead and plan out my flight controller, how I'm going to set that up. But the individual devices, I'm going to go ahead and solder the wires onto these and then heat shrink them up so they're ready as far as that goes, as well as the step down voltage regulator. I got to set all that stuff up with all the wires on there, and then also get the wires ready on this as well too, depending on if I'm going to use the solder points or the pinout connection on this. So one thing I'll do before I actually heat shrink this up is I'll go ahead and hook it up to 5-volt power, and this is just an old flight controller that I have, and I'll just plug it in USB, bind it up to my radio, and have that set, so I don't have to worry about having to press the button if I do need to or anything like that. But you know, the Crossfire works pretty good for doing updates. You don't have to touch it or anything, so once I get it bound to my radio, I should be okay. So after getting all the wires soldered up for the motors and everything else, I did decide to go ahead and use the plug for the flight controller. I will have to rearrange that so it's the correct ones in the ESC to the flight controller. That's not too hard, just changing the pinouts on it. And then the other stuff that I did is I am going to go ahead and use the plug on the Fox Ear mix, just to make it easier. The solder pads have one extra port for current, so you can see that on the OSD on the camera, which I'm not going to be using the OSD for the camera portion of it. I got the GPS wired up and twisted up, so I'll put on a sheathing after I figure out the length of wire that I want on here. And on the video transmitter, because I heat shrink the connection inside of it like that, you do want to make sure that you put your 3D printed mount on there first. That way you have a way to get it on there. And all the wires are on there ready to go as far as that goes too. Same way with the Crossfire Nano, and I do have some sticky tape on that one. The video transmitter won't need it. And I got the two wires connected for the voltage regulator, or the BEC step down, and also the LEDs are wired up, ready to go on that. And that should be all the stuff, all the components that I'm going to be putting on here. So the next step that I'm going to be doing is basically putting all this in place and set it up so I can slide the flight controller on. But once I solder these all onto the flight controller, I'll show you the connections that I have set up on it, but I will not be able to move it after that. Okay, I think I got everything wired up on here that I need to, and let me tell you, this is one of the hardest boards I've ever had to try to solder up. So I'll try to show you exactly what ports go onto what, but it's pretty self-explanatory in the directions and stuff. So this pigtail right here is for the Fox ear mix, and that's just gonna be so I can just plug it in and unplug it so I can show you this stuff. Had to reconfigure all the wires into the pigtail here. That was a little tricky. So all the GPS goes right around this corner here. So I got my SDA, SCL, and TX, RX, and then on the back side here I have my LEDs here, and then I have my crossfire over on this side here, and then back over on this side you have all your video connections, so your video in from or out to the VTX, and smart audio and power. There's not a whole lot to that part of it. It looks like the board takes care of a lot of that part of it, so that's kind of nice. And so anyway, everything was able to fit over the top of this. As you can see, it's a very, very tight fit. Everything's in its proper place. The BEC that I got, I taped to the back of my crossfire here, so this will actually sit up under here like this, so the camera has room up in the front part here. And the cap on the back here, I had to bend over this direction just so I could fit the tab for the connection for the mix right here. Other than that, like, this board has more UARTs than I've seen on even a full-size board, but I think everything fit in there pretty well. So now it's just time to kind of button everything up and get everything going. I still got to heat shrink this. I still got to put my XT60 connections on. I still have to put the top plate on and bolt down the mix on top of everything else here. So as you can see on the back here, this is where my video transmitter is under here. These standoffs right here are actually kind of holding it down, and then this wire comes up from the very front, and it's not bound or anything. It kind of looks like it in the video, but it's not really actually bound. And then the wire cable comes up through the top here, through the 3D printed mount here, and sticks up pretty far. I'm actually happy with the way that worked out that way. So once I get the top cover on here, these two pieces will go together here, and this will swing up to the battery that way. So I am doing a top mount battery on it, but I think it'll work out pretty good. So as you can see right here, I just tucked the LED light wires up underneath like that. So those just kind of come up underneath there and go up underneath like that. Seems to be out of the way, no problems there. The ImpulseRC ESC comes with this capacitor, and the ends or the parts coming up to it are already shrink wrapped for you. So that was a really nice feature that I really liked about that. So it's going to be able to come up here, and I can bend it any way I want to, and I don't have to worry about the wires arcing inside of there or anything. Alright, and here it is, all completed, ready to fly. So I think it turned out pretty good. I'll kind of show you a little bit of a close-up of the flight controller and ESCs and all that. So Got plenty of room behind the camera to have a good up tilt on it like that. Does stick out kind of far with the 2.5mm lens, but I think it still turned out pretty good. Can't wait to get this thing flying. All the antennas and the LEDs turned out pretty good on it. Love that skin. And just with all the components and stuff on here, we'll just look and see how much this thing weighs. I'll kind of point that towards you. So there it is, zeroed out. So we'll go ahead and put it on here. 197 grams. So that's without any props or battery. And like I said, the battery weighs 170 grams on it. So we can just go ahead and pop this up here real quick like this. So we're at 367 with the battery on it, so props 369 is what I'm gonna guess. But yeah, it's over the 250 mark, but with all the components and stuff that it has on it, being able to do long range and all that stuff like that, I don't think you can really beat that part of it. Okay, I did want to show you a comparison between the two. So the Alien and the Reverb, they're very close to the same look and frame design. You know, of course, one is a split level, and the other one is a solid base. But and you know, one is 3-inch and one is 4-inch, but they're pretty identical in the way that they're built and stuff too. So I think they both turned out really good. This is a new skin that Stikit Skins sent out for me as well too, so thank you again for that. And these frames look just extremely good. I love the purple, I love the blue. So ImpulseRC, they make some awesome looking motors too, and I've had really good luck with them. So I have these purple ones on this quad and one other quad, and the blue ones are new to me as far as that goes, and this is the first time I've tried these blue ones, but they look pretty good as well. Did want to show you the weight difference on the Alien. So we got this zeroed out here, hopefully you can see that, and the Alien comes in at 156 grams, and again 197 grams. So about 30 grams difference on them. Oops, I'm touching the top of that. Yeah, about 30 grams difference on those, and just a lot different power. So I can run up to 4S on this one and 6S on this one, or 4S or 5S or whatever I want really, and they should be pretty equal frames as far as that goes. You know, I'm definitely gonna have more power on this one, but this one flies great. I love the way that this one flies, so can't wait to try this one. So one other quick comparison, this doesn't have a GoPro or anything on it, and doesn't have the Foxier mix on it, but the Remix, just about the same type of setup, is 415 grams. So I'm roughly about half that. So so it's definitely a lighter quad, and running the 4-inch arms. So 4-inch compared to a 5-inch, it's quite a bit lighter. Alright, just wanted to show one more comparison between the 5-inch Reverb and the 4-inch micro Reverb, and these are very much identical frames. And if this one flies anything like this one does, I think we're gonna have a really good flight on these things. I've enjoyed putting these together. I really appreciate everybody watching these videos. Sorry this one was so long, but I think it's going to be well worth it. So we'll move on to the flight footage, and we'll see how fast this thing goes.